Hello and welcome to a chess. Today we are going to relax. But wait, is there something missing? The tapping sounds, they are important because this is an ASMR chess video with emphasis on the ASMR part. And you saw me connect my trusty Schweppes Semit 5U microphone for my voice. But what about the tapping sounds? Let's get some microphones for them as well. Here we have a little Sennheiser box, and inside we find the MKH50. This is part of a stereo pair, so we can get that nice stereo feeling. So let me connect it here. And now, can you hear that? Good relaxing sounds in your right side. Luckily, I have one identical that I will connect in your left side. So we get that nice stereo feeling. And this is a relaxation video. And what we are going to do today is that you are going to leave everything to me. Yes, you can learn something. It is an ASMR chess video after all. I don't want you to try to learn anything. I am going to learn something. I am going to memorize a game. And in order to do that, I will do what I always do. I will go through the game, move by move, again and again. And I will seek to understand what's going on. So lie down, sit back, relax, do whatever you want, and drift off to sleep while I will repeat this game again and again and again. And that way the moves may seep into your unconscious as you fall asleep, fall asleep, fall asleep, so that you may even learn this game by heart yourself. Just promise me that you won't try. You are not here to make an effort. You have done everything today that you need to do. You are here to relax. I have found the game here on the internet, so I have it on my phone. And the first thing I want to do is I want to get it out of my phone and on to some paper. And then I will get it from the paper inside my head. So, open up the phone and see what the first move is and who is playing. This game was played in Paris in 1859, and with the white pieces we have the legendary Paul Morphy, who was playing against an amateur by the name of Schrufer, and he opened up Paul did the game with the pawn from e2 to e4. So we write that down. 1 e4, like so. Now let's see how Schufer responded. Pawn to e5, and then I can see that Paul played knight to f3, attacking the pawn. So this shouldn't be too hard to remember for me, since this is a very standard opening. And then we see knight from Schufer to c6. So the game went e4, e5, move 2, we saw knight f3, and knight c6. What happened now? So let's see what we get. Bishop c4, Italian game, like so. Knight to f6, and pawn to d4, the Max Lang attack. I've actually made a video about this, so maybe that will help me remember. It is the 27th of September. We see e takes d4, like so, and castles, and then knight takes e4. So very aggressive play by black. Let's write all of that down. On move 3 we have bishop c4, knight f6. On move 4 we have d4, e takes d, e takes d4, castles by Morphy, and then we have knight takes e4. Now, what will happen then? Let's take a look. First we see rook to e1, pinning the knight. The knight is defended by d5, which also attacks the bishop. But the bishop just captures the pawn, like so. Bishop takes d5, queen takes d5, and knight to c3, attacking the queen on d5, and the queen goes to h5. Let's write all of that down. Rook e1, d5, bishop takes d5, queen takes d5, move 8, knight c3, attacking the bishop, if I remember correctly, and queen h5. Okay, what will happen now? What will happen now? What will happen now? Don't worry, I will do all the work. Just lay back. If you're going to learn anything from this, it will be by osmosis. It will be from the chess moves just seeping into your brain. Seeping into your brain. Slowly, slowly. thing you should do right now is nothing. Just relax, relax, relax. Knight takes e4. That's a knight we're capturing there. Bishop e6, blocking any potential discovered attacks. And here's a cool move, knight e to g5. So that means the knight on the e file goes to g5. And in response to that, we see bishop to b4, attacking the rook. Let's write it down. Knight takes e4, bishop e6, we go to move 10. What do we have on move 10? Knight eg5, and bishop to b4, attacking the rook. So what will happen now? Let's take a look, let's take a look. Let's take a look at what will happen when the rook is under attack. Will we play c3 to move the bishop back, or will we do something else? We are doing something else entirely. Rook takes e6 check. An exchange sacrifice. That's always nice with the exchange sacrifice. Then we see f takes e6. Knight takes e6. Queen f7, attacking the knight. Knight on f to g5, defending the knight and attacking the queen. Queen to e7. Queen to e2 by white. And bishop to d6 by black. So let's write it down. We are at move 11. Rook takes e6. F takes e6. 12. Knight takes e6 and queen f7. Knight f g5 and queen e7. If I remember correctly, it's now queen e2. It is, and bishop d6. Okay. Knight takes g7 check, exploiting the pin on the queen, so the queen can take. That is check. King to d7, and queen g4 check. King back to d8. Knight f7 check. Queen takes the knight. Bishop g5 check. And how do we respond to that? With bishop e7. Let's write all of that down. We are at 15. Knight takes g7 check and king d7. 16. Queen g4 check and king d8. 17. Knight f7 check and Queen takes f7. Okay. 18. Bishop g5 check. And bishop d7 blocking the check. Let's see if that's correct. Bishop g5 check. Bishop e7. Of course, bishop e7. Bishop e7. We are very close to the end of the game now, as you may be able to see. So let's see how the game ends. So we start out with 19, knight e6, check to His Majesty, king c8, walking into discovery, but there is no other choice. Knight to c5, check from the queen, king to b8, and now knight to d7, check again, only one legal move, king to c8. I think I know where this is going. The game here is called Smother Nature. Maybe you can figure out why. Let's take a look. King to c8 here, and then now knight to b6, double check from the queen and the knight, king b8, queen to c8, check, rook takes on c8, and after rook takes on c8, queen d7 is made to the king. Let's write all of that down. That was the end of the game. 19, knight e6 and king c8. Knight e6, check. King c8. 20. Knight c5, check. King b8. 21, knight d7 check, king c8. 22, knight b6 check, king b8. 23, queen c8 check. Rook takes c8. And the final move, move 24, knight d7, checkmate. And so we have now completed step 1, which was moving the game out of the internet onto the paper, so that we now can move it from the paper here, tapping sounds on the paper, into my brain. So the first thing we do is we reset the board. Like so. Typical Morphy, only using 2 pawns. Okay, so here we are again. So this time I will begin the repetition. I'm not going to think too much about what the moves mean. Now I'm just going to play through them to start playing them from the paper and not from the phone. And then next iteration, I will be thinking about what the moves mean and why they are played to make memory hooks so I can remember them better. So we have e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, knight f6, and d4. Then I believe we see e takes d4. Let me check. We do say e takes d4. First plot. And then just castles. Knight takes e4. Rook e1. d5. Bishop takes d5. Queen takes d5. Knight c3. Queen h5. Knight takes e4. And bishop e6, followed by knight e to g5. Bishop b4. Rook takes e6. F takes e6. Knight takes e6. And queen to f7. Knight f, g5, queen e7, queen e2, bishop d6, knight takes g7, check, king d7, queen g4 check, king d8, knight f7 check, queen takes f7, bishop g5 check, bishop e7, knight e6 check, king c8, knight c5 check, king b8, knight d7 check, king c8, knight b6, double check, king b8, queen c8 check, rook takes c8, and after rook takes c8, knight d7 is mate. Now, we have seen the game twice. Let's go over it a third time and let me, not you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything, but I will think about why the different moves are played so I can understand the flow of the game and thereby have an easier time memorizing it. Let me see how far I can go without consulting my notes over here. So I know it's an e4. This is pretty easy to remember because Morphy almost exclusively played pawn to e4 on the first move. e5, also pretty easy to remember. That was what was trendy at the time, because from this opening we can get all these romantic openings, the Evans Gambit, the King's Gambit, all of this stuff that they enjoyed playing in the 1800s. So knight f3, attacking the pawn, knight c6, defending the pawn, and bishop c4. And from here I can remember that we want to go into the Max Lang attack. So knight f6 and d4 is the Max Lang attack. And here I can remember that Schoeffer with the black pieces did something that is dangerous when you are playing against Morphy. He took both of these center pawns, and if you have looked at some Morphy games, which I have, you'll know that he has a tendency to just play these 2 pawns out and only really use them to create avenues of attack. They are basically in his way. If you look at a game like the Opera game, very famous pawn Morphy game as well, that I have also memorized, you can see he only plays these 2 pawns out in that game as well. So I will use that bit of knowledge as a memory hook to remember this game. He only plays these 2 out, and he is very happy to sacrifice them to create avenues of attack. E takes d4, and just castles, not recapturing. I can remember that. And here the very ambitious knight takes e4. So let me think about if I can remember here. What is this position? We see safe king for Morphy. We see pretty good development with knight out and bishop out. This bishop can come out quite quickly. And in particular on the black side we have a weak king. So against a weak king we would like to attack the king, and that helps me understand that rook e1 is the next move because it pins the knight. It's a pretty obvious move. And I can also remember the reply. You could either play f5 like so to defend the knight, and I know that's not a good move, or you could play d5, which is what Schoeffer plays here. And then I'll use my knowledge of Morphy being a very aggressive player, and remembering that it's the knights who are doing all the damage in this game. So we see a bishop sacrifice. Bishop takes d5. Easy to remember that this is recaptured because otherwise this knight will fall. So queen takes d5. And now what could Morphy play here? If you want to justify this move, you will need to gain some tempo, some tempi in there, some tempi maybe. And interestingly, I remember knight to c3 here attacks the queen, and it's kind of a beautiful move. The pawn cannot capture because it would hang the queen. We could just go and capture the queen, and the knight cannot capture because it is pinned by the rook to the king. So therefore the queen will have to move, and interestingly she goes to h5. So why not try to protect the knight? Well, the knight is already attacked twice, so we can only put one defender there, and that's not good enough. So we cannot save the knight. Therefore queen to h5, hoping maybe that this knight will move and we can exchange queens. Also maybe hoping for some bishop e6 and attacks against h7. And Morphy, let me check. I seem to remember he just takes the knight. Yep, he plays knight takes knight, like so. And this creates a very dangerous threat of knight f6. That's double check, so we cannot capture that. The king would have to move, and that would mean we can capture the queen. So bishop to e6. Bishop e6, yeah, that defense against that all makes sense. And now I know he's going on the attack. He's going on the attack with the knights, and I wish you a good night. If you are in bed, falling asleep, I wish you a good night. And Morphy had good knights here, and he's not going to move this one because that would allow a queen exchange, so it will have to be knight e to g5. And I know that the exchange sacrifice of rook takes bishop is going to be allowed here. So I know that it's some other move that allows that. And yeah, that's right, bishop b4, because it attacks the rook. And maybe Shufa is able to get castled here. And I know, because I know the end of the game, that he is not able to get castled. So it's just rook takes bishop. That's check, we have to recapture that. So f takes e6, and that is hanging, and I know that he wants his good knights. These two guys, hello. I know he wants these guys to just crash through, and he sacrifices one of them. So it's just knight takes e6. And here I remember queen f7, but I'm not sure why this move is played exactly. So we have to save the queen because knight takes g7 is going to be a fork on the king and on the queen. So I guess that is why queen f7 also attacks the knight. So we have to protect the knight, and we can protect the knight while attacking the queen. Knight on f to g5, protecting our knight, attacking the queen. The queen will have to move. Queen goes to e7. And here I remember that the move that Morphy wants to play is knight takes g7, but that move cannot be played because queen will just take the knight and the attack will be gone. So we have to pin the queen. So we play queen to pin, and we play the queen to e2 because e1 is covered by the bishop. Also on e1 we wouldn't be able to make use of this diagonal here, which we probably will want to do later. But now I am unsure if I can remember. We are on the 27th of September. Can I remember what move we saw here? I feel like it's bishop e6. I know it's not a pawn move, it's not something like trying to kick the knight, and I know the response is going to be knight takes g7, check. Is it bishop e6? Why would you play bishop e6 here? It doesn't do much. It's not a king move. Castling is not allowed. This move is not allowed. And this is actually maybe playable because now knight here is not going to be checked, but I know knight takes g7 is going to be checked. So almost by process of elimination, I think we are ending up with bishop e6, but I will consult my notes. So after queen e2, we do see bishop d6. That's going to be one of the harder moves to remember. I don't want to do process of elimination every time I try to remember that move. But now I know the answer. That is knight takes g7, check, and so this is the position, and we're not seeing king d8, so that is one of the tricky moves. I will have to see if I can remember that, because it's king d7, allowing queen g4 check. So now king d8, and now knight f7 check, queen takes. So I can remember this by that queen takes f7 is forced. Because there is no moves for the king. There are no moves for the king. There's the only thing we can do here is play queen takes on f7. And now we can play bishop b5 check. And here again, bishop d7 is absolutely forced. It's the only move if we're not going to sacrifice the queen for no reason. And here we can now play knight e6. And I know we are going to end up in the king side corner. Also, if we try king d8, we are just going to play knight takes on c7. So king c8. Now we try to go for the smothered, so knight c5. King cannot go back here. That would be checkmate from the queen. And king has to move because it's check. The only way you could otherwise stop the check is by sacrificing the queen on one of these two squares. So only move is king to b8. Now we go for the smothered mate. Knight d7 check. King goes back to c8. Now knight b6. Crucially, this is double check. We still cannot go here. That would still be checkmate. So the king has to go to b8. And now in order to set up the checkmate, which we know rhymes, we have to sacrifice the queen, protected by the knight, so the king cannot capture. The only legal move is to play rook takes c8 after queen takes c8. Rook takes c8, and of course here queen knight d7 is checkmate. Let's reset again. Let's take that one more time. Let's take that one more time. See if I can remember. Let's see if I can remember. So the game here goes e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, knight f6, d4, the Max Lang attack, e takes d4, castles, knight takes d4, rook e1, pinning the knight, d5, defending the knight, bishop takes d5, queen takes d5, knight c3, a clever move, cannot be captured, winning a tempo against the queen, queen h5, knight takes e4, setting up deadly discovered attacks with knight f6, so bishop e6, stopping that. Knight e to g5, setting up attacks on e6. Oblivious, we see bishop b5 attacking the rook. Rook just moves, captures on e6. Rook captures on e6. F takes e6. Knight takes e6. Threatening the fork on g7, so queen f7. Knight f g5, attacking the queen. Queen e7. And queen e2. And here it was the process of elimination. So it was bishop to d6, allowing knight takes g7, check. And here I thought it was king to d8, but it isn't. It's king to d7, allowing queen check. So why not this move? I guess either of the knights coming here is just too strong, but black is hopeless anyways. So king d7, queen g4, check. King back, knight f7, check. Only one legal move. Queen takes knight. This has vacated the square for the bishop. So bishop g5, check. Bishop d7, only move. Now we try the mating attack. Yes, knight e6. You cannot go to the queen side because knight takes c7. So king c8. But here comes the smothered mate. Knight c5 check. King b8. Knight d7 check. King c8. Knight b6. Double check. King b8. Queen c8. Check. Only one move. Rook takes c8. And knight d7 is check. Mate. Let's understand it a little deeper now. We reset. We reset all of the pieces. Like so. The bishops, the rooks, the pawns, the queen, the knight. So now we can kind of remember the game. Let's see if we can understand the game. 1, e4, e5. Knight c3, attacking e5. Knight c6, defending. So this is a very, very standard opening. And we see the Italian game with bishop c4. This could turn into many, many things, but we do get the Max Lang attack with knight f6 and d4. So this is the inflection point, I would say. This is where Morphy is really saying, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to play this very aggressive game. We are going to open up the center. Pieces will be flying everywhere. And back in this olden days, in the 1800s, in the romantic era of chess, of course, they wanted to accept gambits. They wanted to accept sacrifices that was seen as the gentlemanly thing to do. So that helps explain e takes d4, but also this is just a good move. This is just trying to punish the Max Lang attack. And Morphy plays the theoretical move, castles. So this is a battle of if white can grab some material in the center and without getting overwhelmed by the speedy development, the rapid development of white's forces. And surprisingly, knight takes e4 here is actually a theoretical move. You can play this move, and it looks so risky because of rook e1. But remember, black is up 2 pawns here. So there is actually justification for this, but it's very sharp, and it's not pleasant to play. It's hard to play, but d5 is the correct move. This is the theoretical move. This is what we play. Morphy takes. That's correct also. Bishop takes d5. Queen takes d5 is necessary. And the only reason that white isn't completely busted in this position is because of this magic move, which is also a theoretical move. Knight to c3, attacking the queen and the knight. Queen h5 here, also a theoretical move, a fine move. Bishop takes, knight takes knight, setting up this very nasty discovered check and fork on f6, bishop e6, stopping that. All of that makes a lot of sense. But what happens next? Because now we see knight e to g5. This is not a move that we see anywhere. This is not a theoretical move, and it may not be that good, because every time we reach this position, so far, every time I thought, how about just castles long? Isn't that a good move? Because it looks like black is just doing excellently now. This rook is very active defending this pawn. We are up 1 pawn material right now, and as black we are, and it's opposite the queen, and it's hard to get to the king. I don't think. Let's say white wants to get back in the game, get material back. We see knight takes bishop, pawn takes, and rook takes. So we have mass exchanges here on e6. So now the material is equal again. A simple move like bishop d6. Now we cannot try to win this pawn because we cannot move this knight, because we are going to get some nasty business on h7. And I think if I was playing the position as black, I would be quite happy to get here. That is not what Schubert did. Maybe he just didn't like giving the pawn back. Maybe that felt cowardly to him. Maybe he felt that he had to try to win using that pawn, instead of just trading in the pawn for a safe position. So e4, e5, knight f6, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, knight f6, d4, the max lane, e takes d4, castles, main move in max lane, knight takes e5, a viable but dangerous option, rook e1, pinning, d5, defending and attacking the bishop, bishop takes, a temporary bishop sacrifice, queen takes d5. So bishop takes d5, queen takes d5, and the magic move, knight c3, regaining the lost material, not all of it, but regaining the bishop, regaining the piece here, because we are going to capture this knight. Queen h5, knight takes knight on e4, and bishop to e6, forced, only move, but black has pretty good position here. Then we see knight e to g5, and here is the big mistake. I believe that the game may be completely over after bishop to b4, attacking the rook. The king now is in dire straits, and we can see this move was supposed, bishop b4, that was supposed to harass the rook. Supposed to like have to move, well, I would have to lose time with something like rook to e2 or something, maybe get in the center. And black probably thought, oh, but this is nice because they can't play pawn to c3 and stop this, because I can just come in and capture that. But if white wants to move the rook anyways, and actually would prefer to capture on e6, rook takes e6 with check, f takes e6, then it's a big problem, because we wasted this move. This bishop is not doing anything, and white is really doing something. White is really getting to black's king, and knight takes e6, threatening the nasty 4, queen f7. I'm not sure. The problem here is that this fork is actually a very, very big threat. We cannot castle because the knight is defending the two squares we would like to castle over. So we need to defend g7. Moving the bishop back seems like it just absolutely couldn't work. Also now knight takes on c7. We're going to win the rook with a check here. So it looks like queen f7 is the only way to protect both g7 and c7. And if that is forced, then knight f g5 is very good. Because so this holds it seems to be justified so far, everything that Morphy has done. The knight is protected, the queen is attacked, the queen has to look at both c and g7. So queen e7 here. Only alternative could be queen d7. Is that possible? Let's say we just play queen e2 anyways. So now we are threatening double check when we move here, and we still can't castle, and we actually can't get away with the king. cannot get away with the king, because cannot go here because of the knight, cannot go here, cannot go here, but maybe bishop d7. It's still probably quite tough. Still probably quite tough. Because like something like knight takes g7 check looks like black is toast. But this may be the best they could do. So let's rewind a little bit. Bishop was here on b4. And the queen was back on d1. And after knight f g5, attacking the queen, queen to d7. Excuse me, queen to e7. We tried queen d7. It looked like it may not lead to direct checkmate, but it also looked very dangerous. It did not look like that was the critical mistake in the game. Queen e2. And it's sort of a strange, almost zugzwang position here, because by process of elimination I can remember that bishop d6 is the move played. And it just seems that there are no... maybe king d7 or something. Just because I know how badly it goes with bishop d6. This could be a try, maybe. Instead we saw bishop d6, just allowing knight takes g7 check, king d7, allowing queen g4 check, king d8, knight f7 check. Really nice move, just sacrificing the knight to make room for the bishop. Queen takes f7, bishop g5 check, bishop d7 only move. And here it's pretty easy to calculate because black has so few responses. For instance, knight e6. The only thing you can really do here is to move the king to try to protect this. So king c8, knight c5 check, and we know the pattern we are going for. King b8, knight d7, king c8, knight b6, double check, king b8, queen c8, rook takes c8, and knight d7 checkmate. It's a nice final position. Like, this is so Morphy-esque with this move. This rook here hasn't moved, and you know, in his opera game, every single piece except the two who checkmates have moved and are sacrificed. But in the material count right now, we have knight, bishop, and rook against knight, bishop, rook plus queen. And Morphy is just, but I only need like 1 or 2 pieces to checkmate you. And I just need them to be the right place. And that's how he does, that's what he do. And yeah, let's just go over it one more time, and then I hope you have fallen asleep. And we are just having a good time here, hanging out with some chess. Let's take a look at the game. e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, knight f6, and d4, e takes d4, castles, knight takes e4, rook e1, d5, bishop takes d5, queen takes d5, knight c3, queen h5, knight takes e4, bishop e6, knight e to g5, and bishop b4, rook takes e6, check, f takes e6, knight takes e6, queen f7, knight f g5, queen e7, and queen e2, bishop d6, knight takes g7, check, king d7, queen g4, check, king d8, knight f7, check, queen takes f7, bishop g5, check, bishop d7, knight e6, check, king c8, knight c5, check, king b8, knight d7, check, king c8, knight b6, check, king b8, rook, queen c8, check, rook takes c8, and knight d7, checkmate. I hope you are asleep or you are supremely relaxed wherever you are. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you have a good time as well. I hope you have a good time because you deserve to have a good time. You deserve to relax. Thanks for watching. I hope I will see you in the next video.